Going Crow. Hi humans, this is Merit and you're listening to Going Crow. There are so many trials that occupied public opinion locally and internationally, and the media of all stripes were interested in reporting their details and facts moment by moment, and they still remains in memory until now because of their complex circumstances or the names of the accused involved in committing them or their difficult results. And justice sometimes loses its path at the beginning, but the truth emerges in the end. Last spring, on April 9, 1957, on a pre-dawn prowl of Algeria's Casbah, a French military patrol opened fire on some shadowy figures moving in the half-light. When they reached the spot, the soldiers found a 22-year-old girl named Djamila Bouhired, sprawled in the narrow street, with a bullet wound in the shoulder. In her position were various National Liberation Front documents linking her to Yassif Saadi, the rebel captain of Algerians, who had been terrorizing the city with a rash of bombs planted in cafes, bars, and litter baskets. Stripped naked, Djamila was so important a find that French officers did not even wait until her wound was bandaged. They began their questioning as she lay on the operating table in a military hospital. She admitted being a rebel courier, denied she had any part in the bombings, refused to give the hiding place of Yassif Saadi. They also wanted information about the bombs and the place of their manufacture, but she did not say anything. For the next 17 days, she was in the hands of the French. In her testimony later, Djamila said, "She was beaten repeatedly." Djamila testified, "They stripped me naked and tied me on a bench, taking care to put damp clothes under the cords that bound me. They then fixed electric contracts to my sexual organs, my ears, my mouth, the palms of my hands, my nipples, and my forehead. At 3 in the morning I fainted. Later I became delirious. Every time while one of the preparators worked the machine, the others took notes." Despite all the things that happened to her, she remained silent and patient. She would faint from the severity of the torture, and when she woke up, she would only say, "Algeria is our mother! Algeria is our mother!" A month after the alleged tortures, a French doctor examined her and professed to find nothing wrong. In fact, he identified a bullet wound in her shoulder as only open fistule due to tuberculosis. Her silence permitted them to arrest her younger brother, who was 11 years old, and torture him. They also arrested Yassif Saadi's nephew, but the two boys stood up despite imprisonment and torture. During her imprisonment, Djamila wrote a letter in French, which she addressed to the public prosecutor and the Dean of Judges, telling him about the brutality of the torture to which she was subjected. She recounted one of the incidents covered by the French press at the time, where she said, "One day, a first lieutenant entered upon me, a blond man wearing with white glasses. He stripped me completely naked in front of 2 captains wearing red hats and 3 police inspectors. The first lieutenant began feeling my body and then asked for the Senegalese man to be brought in to assault me. The African's mission was to assault Muslim women." Beating and cursing, all of these things are not torture, but what shook the Algerian the most was the violation of his sanctity and the assault on his honor. And the French were fully aware that it was the only weak point, so they humiliated women by raping them. The French occupier knows that rape for an honorable Muslim woman is the pinnacle of suffering, so violating the Algerian honor was a plan in the French colonial policy and is considered one of the most dangerous methods used by France to psychologically and morally destroy the state and the people together. After the end of her investigation, and after many French lawyers refused to participate in Bouhiered's defense because the court refused to inform them of the case file, in addition to their refusal to exclude the investigations that took place during the torture sessions to which Bouhired was subjected, in order to obtain information regarding her fellow activists, which they could not force her to do, to talk and disclose them. Finally, French lawyer Jacques Vergès volunteered to defend Djamila. The latter quickly obtained the transcript of her statement, which was fabricated and contained her confession making the bombs. He requested a meeting with his client, but his request was rejected due to her secret imprisonment. The judge also harassed, insulted, and cursed him, accusing him of treason. Can you imagine that? Objecting to Vergès' defense, the judge said that the French authorities arrest the doctors who treat the revolutionaries, and it would have been better to arrest the lawyers who defend them. The French authorities continued to harass the lawyer after that, to the point of trying to kill him. During her trial, she was convicted to have placed a bomb in a cafe in Algiers that killed 11 French colons. She was not the first one to be judged for similar crimes, referred by the French colonial administration as terrorism. The appeal hearing was set for September, but due to a new explosion, the hearing date was moved forward to mid-July 1957. New evidence was added to the file. At her court, the prosecution assembled 3 witnesses to link her to the crimes. One of them promptly denied that Djamila had any part in the bombings. The second never appeared. She was also paratrooper prisoner, and the newspaper announced that she had died in custody. The third was a 19-year-old girl named Djamila Bouazza. She's best known for detonating a bomb at the Le Coq Cafe in Algiers in January 1957. The French arrested her in April 1957, tortured her and imprisoned her, where Djamila Bouhired was also found detained. Their trial before the French military court in July. The first trial session was just a trial debate and discussions between the court, Djamila and Bouazza, in which the court brought charges against them, led to the issuance of a death sentence. During the trial, Bouazza refused to bow her head and told the judges, "You know nothing about me. If I can't drop a bomb, I drop it again." She answered most questions by machine gunning the court with her finger and crying, "Tak, tak, tak." She tried to undress on the witness stand and frankly spinning a bracelet on her wrist. Bouazza was speaking in a loud and unnatural voice, as if she was forced to confess as a result of the torture she was subjected to inside the prison of the French occupation forces, which forced Bouazza to admit that Djamila was the one who incited her to throw explosives. However, Bouazza's abnormal performance called on the French lawyer Vergès to submit a request to the court, asked a psychiatrist to reveal the extent of the traumas she was exposed during the investigation, but the court rejected the lawyer's request. A French doctor assured the court that witness Bouazza was sane. 2 other doctors said that they would prefer to express no opinion. So that caused on charges of possessing explosives and destroying buildings, attempted murder, participating in murder incidents, and joining a group of killers. Sentencing Djamila to death was unjust and criminal because the court convicted her solely based on the testimony of a mad woman. When most of the lawyers who were pleading for accused Algerians were French leftists who were trying to attenuate the circumstance of their client's crime to the colonial court, a sort of negotiation that proved not to be efficient. Verges, when he undertook defense, however, used this repertoire strategy, which consists in rigorously accepting the description of facts that the colonial persecution deploys, embracing the absence of attenuating circumstance to the crime, and furthermore to affirm that the accused does not regret her or his crime and would be eager to commit more if given the opportunity. The point of repertoire consists instead in the categorical refusal to recognize the legitimacy of the court itself, as well as the large authority that it represents. In the case of colonial Algeria, this means denying the right for a French court to judge Algerians, and rather than defending the position of Djamila, attack colonialism itself. This trial did not last more than a few days, only as it was working to prepare the atmosphere for the execution, and Djamila was well aware of this. But she did not retract her true statements. The moment came when the court pronounced the ruling prepared in advance, and the court was formal and pronouncing the death sentence for Djamila. And here Djamila started laughing, hysterical and nervous at the same time, which prompted the judge to shout at her, saying, "Miss, do not laugh, this is serious," as if it was an attempt by the court to impose the logic of seriousness on its ruling, which had many flaws and contained nothing but the seriousness of falsifying the facts. When her death sentence was pronounced, she said firmly, "Gentlemen, I know you will sentence me to death, because those you serve yearn to see blood, and yet I'm innocent, and you based your attempt to convict me on the statements of a sick girl," which she was referring to Waza, "and you refused to present her to a psychiatrist because of a concept and an investigation report drawn up by the police and preparators, and you have hidden its true origin to this day. The truth is that I love my country and wanted to have freedom. You will sentence me to death for supporting the Algerian National Liberation Front after you tortured me, but if you kill us, do not forget that in doing so, you are assassinating the traditions of French freedom. Do not forget, you are tarnishing your country's honor and endangering its future. You will never succeed in preventing Algeria from gaining its independence." Those words came out as a loud cry from a fighter who only wanted to defend her country from the power and control of the occupier, and her strong desire to achieve independence for her country, which deserved to have the freedom it wants. But the occupier did not know much about the meaning of freedom for the people who wants it, and who can make efforts for that. Freedom is a very beautiful thing, including lives. Loud echoes God wanted to shake the sides of the court. And not only that, but its loud echoes went out from the courtroom to reach all parts of the world. There is actually an Egyptian film that helped with public opinion. The story begins in 1958 when the actress Magda al-Sabahi decided to produce a film about Djamila, And that time Djamila was in prison and sentenced to death. Majda produced the film for herself. Many famous Egyptian actors were with her. The film was directed by Yusuf Shaheen. It was presenting in many countries around the world, denouncing the death sentence against Djamila. Whenever it was shown in a country, demonstrations took place demanding the release of Djamila. And the word public opinion was ignited, which moved against France. International newspapers wrote about Djamila, and the phrase "Save Djamila" spread throughout Western media throughout the world. The film was able to greatly influence the French people to the point where the French sympathized with Djamila. The French philosopher Jean Sartre wrote, "The film embodied in front of me the magnitude of the crime we committed against humanity. This great little actress made me shed tears and made me forget my nationality." He was also praised by the writer Simone de Beauvoir, who wrote, "The film caused a major international uproar and put pressure on world public opinion." The French deliberately concealed the date of Djamila's execution, and colonial news agencies collided with them, but the will of the people was stronger. Dag Hammarskjöld, the Secretary General of the United Nations at the time, was bombarded with millions of telegrams from everywhere in the world saying, "Save Djamila, save Djamila, save Djamila." Those telegrams, positions of rejection that reached the United Nations Human Rights Committee and intervention of some Arab leaders made France withdraw from power, and only a few days passed and the French occupation retreated. In May 1962, Algeria and France signed the Evian Accords and the Declaration of Algerian Independence. The Algerian prisoners were gradually released. Among them was the freedom fighter Djamila.
Mais l'angoisse était très grande. Il y avait aussi une peur. Mais nous l'assumions parce que nous savions pour quelle raison nous étions là. Nous étions convaincus de ce que nous avons fait.
What happened to women in Algeria at that time by France is so bizarre. When French colonial armies arrived in Algeria in early 20th century, they were accompanied by photographers. Photographers wanted to take pictures of Algerian women as they had imagined them, lounging in harems, smoking hookahs, trapping in the prison of their own homes, topless, sexually available. But when they reached the country, they encountered women whose bodies could not be seen, veiled from head to toes, with only their eyes visible. Algerian women were inaccessible to the photographer's gaze. Rape was the symbol of humiliation for an enemy who cannot protect his women. According to the scholar, rape in war is far less often the result of order or brutally, but more often of animal instincts and lust. They weaponized Algerian women's body as part of a political battlefield between French and Algerian men. The rape of Algerian women by French soldiers was used to demoralize Algerian men whom they considered to be source of honor. The suffering the rape could take place anywhere, in the villages, outside, in the prison, at the police station, in the military. Rapes could take place anywhere and at any time, and the rapists were hardly ever punished. The women would do all they could to escape the soldiers. When the French army approached the Algerian villages, the women gathered together, holding their children against them. Some even covered themselves in cow's excrement in hope of making themselves too disgusting to rape. It didn't always work. There were a number of women who were arrested to satisfy the sexual needs of the soldiers. The women would be arrested and taken to the bedrooms where there would be 2 or 3 soldiers. She would be raped by each intern. Women represented Algeria's struggle for independence. It's because they refused to be subservient that the soldiers had to fight in Algeria, bore themselves there, and they had to leave France. And all that was familiar to them, so they wanted revenge, and it's easier to inflict revenge on a woman than on a man. Algeria really suffered to gain independence, and mostly who suffered were women. And I know rape is so hard. For a woman to experience such a sexual assault, it's affecting her mental health and her body. I really want to say I'm really proud you come out of it very powerful and so strong. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're having a good day. Bye!